You know, I wasn't sure if Huni was going to play seriously, but he's been practicing extremely hard, and it seems like he has earned that starting spot on this roster.
It is really interesting to see how this team plays. You think of Huni, you see him on your screen here, carry player. Peanut, the quintessential carry jungler, and Faker. Doesn't matter if Faker locks in Lulu or he locks in an assassin. He will play forward. He will play aggressively. It's going to be really interesting to see the speed and just the styles that we see from this roster, because we could be seeing the debut of the 2017 World Champions.
That's very, very possible, and a lot of teams have kind of alluded to that. I think it was MVP said, you know, nothing's really going to change. We're going to do our best to try to make it into the final, but SKT's probably going to win Worlds
There's
anyway.
another change as well. EDG's coach last year, Rapid Star, is in the booth with Coma. Quite the brains trust there, and things have changed on the Rift too. We'll get onto that as the game goes. We are on 7.1 with Teemo disabled today. You wouldn't think we'd have to talk about Teemo being disabled. We saw 2 Teemo games last season, so no Teemo, 7.1. Champions Korea OGM broadcast starts now.
All right, well, time to dive into it. I'm especially excited because this is our first Coma draft with a new system. 10 bans coming through. Jin Air on the blue side. First thing that they'll take away is going to be that Elise.
Really interesting to track. Watching the game so far, there has been 1 day of Challengers and 1 day of LCK played on the 10-ban system. So when it comes to Premier Regions, they're the first 2 debuts of this 10-ban system. So far, 100% pick ban has been Maokai, LeBlanc, Camille, Ryze, Rengar, Zyra, and Vaz. Lots of power picks, a lot of flexible champions. The only champion that's been banned in all 10 games that have been played so far is LeBlanc, and no surprise that it's banned, but kind of a surprise that it's SKT that have to ban LeBlanc, but of course it's because they are on the red side.
Yeah, I mean, Kuzan wouldn't mind getting his hands on that champion. So, just want to take that one off the board. Syndra, the follow-up from Jin Air. See where they want to go. Get some nice
remix
music going on here.
You gotta be on your toes. Every time there's been a break, they'll just remix that familiar champion select before you know it.
But Camille off the board. Rengar as well, been a really popular ban so far.
We've seen it once. Crash played it, and Crash dominated. And Longzhu's only win against Samsung yesterday, so predictably is banned away. The trend so far has been, if there's a real high priority mid laner, you might see it taken. A Ryze, for example. Camille also was taken at first pick when available. But with Ryze banned here, the general trend has been bot lane and support in the first round, and then the counter picking predictably begins as we get into the second round of the draft.
Yep. And Cassiopeia, something that we've also seen maintain its level of priority in the mid lane. Could see that come out later in the draft. For now, with the jungle pool pinch just slightly, Lee Sin will be coming through from on the side of Jin Air. And so I'm not going to be going for something in the bottom lane to start things off. Want to get a very strong jungler to kick things off at the start. SK Telecom could just be going for the Ashe. There we go. They're going to lock that in with the Zyra.
And that's just the predictable. Again, the bot lane has been the focus. With all 80 carries available, it's interesting to see Ashe still retaining the same position it did by the time the World Championships reached its final stage. The utility carries still seem to be the story. The answering pick to Ashe so frequently has been the Jin, both of them initiators. So wouldn't be surprised to see it here. And we could also see the MF lock-in, because that is still the pick du jour to deal in lane with the Zyra.
Yeah, very well could see that one come through from Snowflower, but the Jin for now, absolutely locked up. And the Tahm Kench, another one that has been, you know, played in the past to counteract that Ashe. You see the arrow come through. If it connects,
and it's a more general thing as well. So the story so far has been a lot of lane power. They've been just locking in Misfortune to focus on laning. Tahm Kench's laning the support role, not wonderful, but you pick it out, Achilles. A lot of comps have been all about, in the second round, developing a strong pick comp. Ashe is the start of that. Ashe, Kha'Zix now, something like a Nautilus to really set up reliable CC for the deletion damage from Kha'Zix has been the story. So Tahm Kench, I was going to say, is rising in priority because, okay, you trade the 2v2 laning, but because so many teams are running pick comps, Tahm Kench is the ultimate answer to something like the Enchanted Crystal Arrow.
Yeah, big denial, but you see right there, and you heard the gas from the crowd, Kha'Zix locked in for Peanut. Has been running rampant on the Rift for quite some time, now going into the second ban phase. Malzahar off the board from SK Telecom, Rumble as well from Jin Air. So that's been a bit of an interesting one, seeing the Rumble come back out in the bans. We saw some of that yesterday.
I mean, the big story yesterday was, of course, Smeb's favorite blind pick top laner was the Rumble, so it was a targeted ban there. I'm really interested to see Malzahar banned first when Tahm Kench has already shown. Tahm Kench is going to be the support pick here. Outside chance, you could say that Ixu effects at the top, but not really realistic. So it's surprising to see a Malzahar ban after support was locked in. The Katarina ban from Jin Air is predicted. By far the most played for Faker has been Katarina and solo queue. Him and BDD right up the top of solo queue, playing a lot of that Katarina, so not wanting to offer that. And now with Maokai taken away, considered by myself and many analysts the strongest top laner right now because can lane so well, especially after the Poppy nerfs, that he just gets through the laning phase and is the strongest tank late game. Waiting to see what Jin Air wants to do because they have to buy and pick mid lane. And Cassiopeia, it's been a comfort pick for Kuzan in the mid lane. And you hear that, Gus? That's Ixu locking in Kled. Interestingly, Kled is his third most played in solo queue, so I had it on the list if we got to see some top lane bans. Surprised to see it though, so high priority, and maybe trying to catch Huni unawares in his Korean debut.
I mean, you talk about Maokai being so dominant in the top lane. How do you expect this Kled to really play into that?
Well, the thing about Maokai is, okay, he has decent base values early, but he doesn't often get solo kills, right? It's more about just laning safely. So theoretically, you can take this riskier pick in the top lane. It's not a true carry, will build a bit of damage at the start, but those trades, especially with the W early, can be really, really powerful. So for a first Kled locked in for LCK in game one of the day, something exciting, and yep, gotta remember those skill names as well. Bear Trap on a rope, I remember that one.
Yeah, gotta do the refresher course. Kled, not necessarily one of the ones that you expect to come through, but I mean, first game here, OGN, we're the LCK, and we are just chock full of surprises. I like it, and I think that we are going to have one hell of a day worth of games coming towards us. Papa Smithy, getting ready to kick things off with game one here. Jin Air, SKT, interesting drafts on both sides. I'm really excited to see Peanut come out with this Kha'Zix. We know how aggressive he likes to play. If he can get rolling on that, then it is just going to be absolutely devastating.
But all focused on the solo lanes because of the change. Counter picking is a true story, so we'll get more information about the Kled versus Maokai. I think in the first 4 levels, there could definitely be some all-in potential for the Kled. The jungle, both these players most played recently has been the Lee Sin, but Peanut picks up the Kha'Zix. That has certainly put up a lot of impression. We'll talk about the re-rise of Kha'Zix into the competitive scene later. Faker was the one that got the counter pick when it comes to the other solo lane though. Orianna traditionally does very well against Cassiopeia after laning phase. And then AD carry support, sure, Tahm Kench is not wonderful, but expect mostly a farm lane between these two teams.
Yep. We'll have to see how Teddy is going to fare in that bottom lane. I mean, promising talent. We saw him, as mentioned in the Kespa Cup, looked quite strong as an AD carry, but going up against Bang, the potential best in the world. But let's go ahead. Let's not wait any longer. Let's get onto the rift for game one, SKT versus Jin Air. A lot of fans on both sides. SK Telecom, of course, coming out with the fan club, distributing some nice posters into the audience, so they'll be sporting those throughout the broadcast. I'm sure we'll get to see them on camera as we go throughout. But so far, it's going to be starting off fairly standard. No shenanigans for either of these teams.
We certainly saw some shenanigans yesterday from Samsung in particular, going for a cheese invade with the Kha'Zix. I think it was actually Kha'Zix Maokai as a duo onto the blue side and counter jungling from Longzhu. That was one of the things that got them the win. I believe it was game 3 yesterday. There are the T1 fans. New signs, old signs. New fans, old fans.
Yep. A lot of jerseys and jackets as well out in that audience. So I wonder if they've pushed out the new Huni line at the SKT shop.
Give that plug when we know for sure, but yeah, plenty of merchandise sales for both Huni and Peanut, who are big names inside and outside of Korea. Looking at the Korea win rates between Faker and Kuzan. Predictably, Faker doing pretty well, but Jin Air has from time to time taken games away from SKT, whether they were riding high at the top of the table or whether they were struggling. So always a rivalry to track, even though, of course, at the end of the season, it's always been SKT hoisting the trophy.
Yep. So I'm going to be seeing Huni going for that corrupting potion. Not going to be starting off with the Doran's Ring, as we sometimes see from those top lane Maokais. Get a little bit more aggression in. But once that sustainability, so far, doing all right against Ixu. Going to be trying to whittle him down, get rid of Skarl. and just limit that mobility on Kled, but going to be a fairly slow way to kick things off.
I like to really think about Kled as a level 4 champion, a level 3 champion. Get all your abilities and then a second point in an ability. And just like Rumble kind of peaked at level 4, it feels like Kled's all-in is really powerful. Level 3, level 4, especially with Fervor for Battle, which is, of course, the keystone that's been taken by Kled. So even though Huni has the early pushing advantage, used a lot of mana, so maybe just going to push and leave lane. Otherwise, maybe we'll finally see those Kled trades that can be so deadly.
I mean, he can set up a gank really well. That bear trap on a rope. Pull them in, and so he can line up that Sonic Wave. For now, Peanut wandering over to spot him out. There's a ward over into the Krugs, and he'll take that Blast Cone for a ride over into the Dragon pit. So just going to be spotting out, so good tracking coming in from Peanut so far.
This is still pretty damn powerful on 7.1. We're toned down a little bit. It is that extra camp to hit level 4, but the level 3 power spike remains the same. 3 camps, including the 2 big ones, will hit you the level 3. Already some pink ward coverage here, so Kuzan does have some information about Peanut coming in.
Yeah, he's going to jump right in onto Kuzan. Gets a good amount of damage, and flash forward from Faker. The last auto attack takes him down. First blood going over to SKT.
Yeah, we didn't toggle vision, so we can't be 100% certain that he spotted Peanut, but end result was just enough. Wolf, though.
Yeah, in a bad spot, has to throw out the exhaust. Going to be traded back onto Bang. Snowflower not able to secure a kill. Wolf does hold on to his flash, however, but the heal gets used by Bang. So a trade of summoners in favor of Jin Air in the bottom lane.
Yeah, felt like Kuzan tried to be steadfast with the summoner spells. In the end, was punished. Both summoners down. Faker used his flash, but still has Ghost up. There is that potential for a wraparound gank from Peanut in just a couple of minutes' time.
Yeah, Faker going to be pretty well set now over that first blood coming through from him. Lost Chapter and Boots, so going to have that added mobility, dodge away from those poisons. So Kuzan's going to be in a bit of a rough patch. Peanut, of course, sacrificing some CS to get that gank on the board. We'll see if he's going to be able to catch back up to Umte, and if Umte can match that aggression around the map and try to put some kills on the board for Jin Air Green Wings. So for now, just going to be 1 kill coming through 5 minutes in, and 700 gold up for SK Telecom. This is their comfort zone.
And SKT have been really puzzling to track in LCK specifically. Their Worlds results, their MSI results, certainly without parallel on the international stage, but struggled in great swaths of both spring and summer season during the early regular season, then kind of got it together towards the end of both of those seasons. So they want to impress, you know, a lot of players here, including Peanut and Huni, coming in with impressive reputations, but building one for SK Telecom is a really different story. So how this season pans out is going to be really exciting to track, because we know this team will be going deep into the World Championships. It's an inevitability at this point.
Sure, but this time they might have KT Rolster right next to them. As they do that, of course, we don't get a Telecom War for a considerable amount of time. I think it's March, right near the end of round 1, that we finally will get to see those 2 Titans clash.
And you want the instant gratification, right? You really want to see it this week, but there is also an advantage to the teams actually playing 7, 8 best of 3s without facing each other, then facing each other with that experience, with the early kinks, because of course KT, they still had some problems. You could still see that they're a very new team. Those kinks shouldn't be there 9th game of the season, and that's one to circle on the calendar, because it's going to be epic.
For sure. And then we get a follow-up match pretty immediately after that in round 2. So we'll get back-to-back Telecom Wars just about, so will be very exciting times when that does wrap around. But we have to see how KT is also going to develop. They did look a little bit shaky in the beginning of that game 1, and then Def just absolutely popped off on Ezreal. And then game 2 happened. But it's definitely going to be one hell of a story to see how that super team can come together and continue to grow. Oh, here we go, though. Umte coming in. Nice petrifying gaze onto Faker. Beautifully played by Umte and Kuzan in the mid lane. Faker just didn't even see it coming.
Faker looks...
Peanut just quickly down this dragon.
He looks bemused as Faker. Did not see it coming, like you said. Peanut falls super low. No burn effect on the Ocean Drake means he will survive, but came through a ward, but just with such rapidity. And the fact that he just committed to the flash instantly into the kick. Nice stuff from Umte. And hey, if it translates from solo queue into competitive that well, maybe he's a name we'll remember come the end of the season.
I'm sure he would definitely like that. But yeah, no hesitation whatsoever And Faker just can't respond, so he goes down, and a kill does go over to Umting. Couldn't hand it off to Kuzan, but you at least hit a kill. Not the worst of things. I'm sure they're going to be pretty happy about that in the end.
He's going for a solo queue build as well. When you see the Rejuve beat, you know it's going to be Tiamat, so going to have fairly damaging clear.
Oh boy, Teddy. Get hit up by that Cheddar Crystalline arrow, but the exhaust is through from Bang. Flash forward by Snowflower. Flies Wolf and takes him out. Pretty much a solo kill just about onto the Zyra. Nicely done by Jin Air. They'll put a second kill on the board and find themselves with a very slight gold lead.
Our intro teases all about the splitting up of the Rocks Tigers, predictably as the second strongest team in the world, most would say. On the end of last year, Ixu's going to channel the ult. I'll finish that thought in a moment.
He's charging through, but Faker, he's already out of there. Didn't even need to pop. The Ghost just gets that move speed from the command distance, and he is fine underneath this tower.
We're going to have to call that one a mulligan, I guess, when it comes to the charge, but...
You tried.
But yeah, we focus on the Rocks Tigers breaking up. The Rocks Tigers now, in many ways, are the majority of the Afrika lineup. The Afrika Freaks, who finished 5th in both spring and summer season, have kind of split it between Jin Air and the Rocks Tigers. You look at this team, Ixu and Snowflower were both cornerstones of that Afrika lineup. It's also the first time we've seen Snowflower and Sangyun, the old streamer duo that came into competitive together on Afrika, separated. And it's nice to see Snowflower have a moment of his own because, again, these two were always kind of a single thought in your mind. It was Snowflower and Sangyun. It wasn't the skills of one or the other, as Faker has to respect Flash.
Yeah, meanwhile in the bottom lane, Snowflower going low, doesn't have any summoners, but they can't quite get to him to finish him off.
They're so lucky the wave came just as it did. It buys them time. Now Umti can rotate down. Now suddenly it's an overstay by Peanut and Wolf. Neff back away.
Yep. No more kills coming out of the bottom lane. You can see SKT. We weren't sure how aggressive they were going to be, but it seems like it's going to be pretty damn aggressive coming out the gates. But Jin Air, they've been able to keep up with the pace that was set at the beginning of the game by Faker.
And there's no shackling Peanut. What you will see this season is that he will not be the plug-and-play replacement for someone like Bengi. He will not be a defensive ward bot and largely just take a small gold share and farm his own minions. He will still be aggressive. I think he only goes one way. I saw him on Najin on his first team. When he could play aggressive, fantastic player. When he had to kind of play the meta farm on champions like Rek'Sai, it didn't look the same. So at least based on game one, looks like they're going to keep Peanut the same, and we're going to look to Faker and Huni mostly to do the adjustments.
Yeah, and I mean, that adjustment was one of the biggest concerns that we had about Huni coming into SK Telecom. So far, he's been doing fine. You know, just standard Maokai play up in the top lane, stretching a bit of a CS lead.
Of course, we still do have that very, very small sample size. 10 minutes of game one, but it's going to be an ongoing story, just how SKT fit together, because...
Oh, that's okay. Abyssal Voyage into the back. Bang's going to flash away from that first shot. Second's not going to connect, and now, it does clip him here, but the Tongue Lash isn't going to land. Ash Arrow comes through onto Umte. The Devour comes through by Snowflower, and no one will die, but they get a heck of a lot of Summoner Spells out of Bang.
Ixu's already flashed preeminently here. I believe he saw cards on the ward. Yep, pinged him out, so did not want to stay overextended. He's kind of lucky in that his ultimate's kind of an escape also, just like Sion's was when he was in the meta, so you can just roll away when you see the jungler coming, even if it flashes down.
Sion is like kind of yelling at you as he's charging away from you. He's calling you like a pansy, and he's running away at the same time. Peanut trying to get in on the Kuzan, but he pops a Ghost and will be able to waddle his way out of the mid lane. Doesn't have to burn the flash. So, decent pressure there, but still SK Telecom is going to be stagnating on this gold lead at the moment.
It's been competitive, which is not something we could know for sure. There is more talent on Jin Air's lineup than a lot of people know, and that's because they have two pure rookies. Teddy played a couple of good Jin games in the Kesper Cup, but again, not a lot of people watch that tournament, not a lot of fanfare. Umti is just straight up out of sight, out of mind when it comes to junglers. Maybe played a couple of competitive games, but certainly not the relevant experience. So seeing these players here, and then knowing that Ixu very much is a solid top laner, knowing that Kuzan is one of those star mid laners towards the middle of the pack in Korea. It's a lot to like as Ixu.
Oh, it's going to interrupt the charge. Here comes Peanut. Skarl goes heading for the hills, and looks like they will pick up the kill. Peanut taking that one away, 1-0-1 on the board for him. Nicely done, and they take down the Kled.
Yeah, really nice stuff from Huni. Flash straight in, just like you can with Sion ults. The same mechanics there to interrupt the roll away. Got the kill. Huni's playing Maokai, which I guess we should have talked about a bit more on Champion Select. The top Lucian meme is still a big reality, but has played these tanks from time to time, and predictably, if you can play Riven, if you can play the difficult champions, Maokai's pretty
You
straightforward.
can probably play the point-and-click CC now,
Yep.
Kai. Not that hard to figure out. Jin Air, though, going to be picking up that first brick gold as they try to hand this all over to Teddy Nine this wave. There we go, 650 over onto the Jin. Interestingly enough, going for the Youmuu's Ghost Blade to start things off. We kind of started drifting away from that starting item, that sort of build from the Jin, but here comes Peanut yet again. Beautiful shockwave set up by Faker. Peanut leaps in over the wall. They hand yet another kill over to the Kazakhs, but now Ixu has something to say about this. Bear Trap on a rope, connects onto Faker, draws him back in, and Ixu is able to take him out.
Yeah, really nice collapse. Just because of the timing, Ixu was coming from spawn. Didn't have teleport up, didn't have ult to get there faster. In the right place at the right time, so it's a 1-for-1. And he has some turret damage as well. And still winning this early game so far.
See how much more they can get. Peanut can't really walk up to try to clear this out because somebody still has the Dragon's Rage, still has that flash available. And they certainly could lock him down, but you can see turret falls to about 1/3 HP. So nicely done by Jin Air, trading back and getting more for it.
I mean, it was a big commitment from SKT. It was a turret dive, it was well executed, but the steps aren't necessarily there that, say, the Rocks Tigers would have if they were going for such dives. They're pretty shallow in terms of vision, a couple of wards around the area, and then just got collapsed because of the respawn time. So, predictably, it's their first competitive game. It's very early in the season, but it's certainly not the polished Faker and Peanut assassinations that we'll see later in the season you have to expect.
You have to hope for the sake of SK Telecom and their fans. But still, just going to be maintaining pretty much perfect harmony across the board outside of the turrets. Snowflower has to flash away. They're going to get popped up by the vines, but Ash Arrow comes through. They lock him up, pops a great health. Blast Cone sends him over the wall, and Peanut back into the Dragon Pit, and he will make it out alive. Nicely played by Snowflower.
Yeah, Snowflower actually autoed it, but got interrupted by the Ash Arrow, then still lived through the CC duration, got over anyway, so got out. But first Drake was soloed by Peanut. The second one will get some help. And just talking a bit about Kazakhs, you know, a lot of people think of him as a solo queue champion just because a melee assassin with resets sounds great in solo queue, but on paper, how does it translate into competitive play? What people don't talk about is that with the change to Q, specifically the 1 second or less cooldown, the refresh system you get when something is isolated, Kazakhs obliterates Baron and Drake. And that's the big story there, is that because he obliterates neutral objectives, he still is very useful, even if he's not getting the ganks off. And that's why we see him so highly regarded.
I mean, imagine if you had a Faker on the Cassiopeia with that Kazakhs coming through, just solo, or duo the Baron rather early. But they pick up that Mountain Drake, but Jin Air, they revisit this mid lane, and they knock down that tier 1 tower.
You got the 1+1 going there. How about you just add in Maokai to tank the thing? And you're right, deletion damage, a Mountain Drake. Baron could be a really big early priority for SKT.
You know, it's going to get rooted. And they'll open up with a curtain call. Doesn't really have any hope of killing anybody. Maybe steal a wolf, but you know, he'll be all right. Clears out the camp. And that'll just go on a cooldown here for Teddy. So SKT, what's their next move going to be? Losing 2 towers in the mid and bottom lane. Haven't seen Huni contribute much yet, as SKT hasn't really gotten into a position to go for a full-on team fight. So it hasn't been necessary for the teleport. Now Huni going to be in a rough spot as Jin Air just going to look to tack on third turret on.
They've been dictating the pace of this game from the moment they got the first brick. They've been rotating around, have mid. Now because of the Tahm Kench ultimate, have the inside track to top, have top turret to half health, and unless they bring Faker, who traditionally has been anchored to mid, okay, we're going to see this ult.
Yeah, charge is coming through, jumps straight in onto Huni. Brutal connect on the Wolf, throws down the ultimate, flashes away, but it doesn't matter. Umte is sticking to him like glue. Devour comes through from Snowflower, keeping his Lee Sin alive. But here comes Faker, throws out the orb, but doesn't go for the shockwave. Peanut is able to pick up a kill onto the Lee Sin, and now Faker finding Snowflower, burns through him as well. 2 for 1 in favor of SK Telecom, plus a turret in the bottom lane. Nicely traded across the board. SK Telecom coming out on top and getting themselves a bit of a gold lead.
Yeah, and SKT had that extra time with the third turret to know exactly how to rotate. They saw Tahm Kench holding to top. It was very clear what Jin Air wanted to do. They got the chunk on top, but this was an overcommitment. There was no need to dive. They thought the dive might dissuade Huni and Wolf from walking up. The Faker was already able to ghost over. The rotation was there. Faker could also take the inside track. If Cassiopeia had rotated first, occupied the tri-brush, no way for Orion to get there that fast. Suddenly, maybe this play works. But the fact that they could win, get kills 4v5 and also take bot lane turret is a big momentum shift towards SKT. And funnily enough, they're now ahead in gold.
Yep. Almost 1,000 up at the moment for SK Telecom. Going to be looking to keep that ball rolling. And again, they're still going to be down by a turret. So if they can equalize that objective count, they'll be in a very good spot to continue rolling. Peanut now 3-0-2 on the Kazakhs. Pretty much the exact performance that we expected from him. Maybe with a couple more kills at this point in the game, but still doing some solid work for SKT.
While we have a bit of lull in the action, I want to talk about the AD carry builds. You touched on it a bit earlier. The fact that the Youmu's first was the pickup from Teddy. Sure, some people have phased it out, but the build we saw from Prey yesterday was still the rush on the Youmu's for the move speed, for the repositioning, and the early arm penetration. I guess you could call it the lethality, which of course isn't quite as much armor penetration in the early game, but regardless, the early stats. And from there into Infinity Edge, still to have a good 2-item spike, because Ixu's just rushing mid, I guess.
He's just going for a little stroll with Skarl.
Not necessarily a tutorial for how to use that Kled ultimate.
That's very true.
But you look on the side of Bang, he's actually going for Essence Reaver, which a lot of people have said Infinity Edge first is the new build. Consider the team comp he has. He has Orianna Kha'Zix. He has a big, high-damage jungler. This Ashe is much more about starting the fights with low cooldown on the Ashe Arrow, the utility side, than necessarily having to go Infinity Edge first. If you have a tank jungler, sure you can go for IE, but we're seeing some more flexible item build paths as players realize, oh wait, I don't actually need IE first. Doesn't matter if I get that big crit. Kha'Zix will shoulder the damage in the early game, and these items will come together later.
Yep. Well, Bang hasn't yet gotten involved in those kills, had that split going on in the bottom lane, now rotating up to top. As we can see, Teddy and Snowflower are there to match this push coming through from that Ashe-Zyra combo. So they have to be careful. That top turret is very low, so if they do have to back off and try to find Sanctuary underneath of that, Jin Air would be able to finish it off rather quickly.
Well, the momentum from Jin Air has been slowing down. Suddenly it's SKT that can take the more aggressive paths through the enemy jungle to get turrets. One turret answered, now a second one. Very good early playbook from Jin Air, but the moment that SKT actually had the trump card, had the answer to Jin Air's fast push, Jin Air have kind of held back, respected their opponents more and more, and now suddenly it's SKT that seem to be dictating the pace of the action.
Yeah, which is something that we are very used to here in the LCK. It just took them a little while to get to that point. But now, going to be just under 2,000 gold ahead for SK Telecom, 20.5 minutes. So not the largest lead. They're going to lose a little bit of that here as Jin Air will be able to finish this final Tier 1 tower. So they take that out. Now it's just going to be 1.1k for SK Telecom to work with. Good spot out there by Bang. Sees 3 members running down the river, so they get a pretty good idea of where everybody on Jin Air is. But now you can see the vision priority around Baron Pit starting to come through. Cassiopeia there for Jin Air. If they could find, unique vision, then they would be able to burn through that. But to fake out SKT. Peanut, in the meantime, he's been really dedicated to these dragons. Moving over, we'll find a second Mountain Drake by the look of things. Things are coming out. Ixu throws a ward over the wall, so they see this being taken. But it doesn't look like they want to try and go contest this.
Looking for an angle. They do have the ultimate from Ixu up. Drake's low. They just end up waiting too long. They had pretty much complete information there.
I mean, Uxie just went over to the Krugs instead of trying to, get more vision or try to wrap around and contest that Drake. So double Mountain Drake now over to SK Telecom. And I mean, you mentioned, the reset on the isolation for the Q for Peanut. Now with double Mountain Drake, you put him and Huni in a Baron Pit, and that thing is going to die.
Yeah, that's the thing. I misspoke a bit earlier talking about SKT having the Caspios. Of course, the Orianna's Baron threat isn't the same.
Oh, that's going to be the Crystalline Arrow coming through. Does connect on the Teddy. And the Roots will not lock up Snowflower, so they'll be able to walk away.
But those 3, even the Orianna just shielding the Maokai. Maokai's not going to take any damage, and Kha'Zix will really shoulder the damage to that Baron. So still very much Baron threat to be respected on the side of SKT.
Oh, for sure. And Peanut completing that Black Cleaver has a hell of a lot of damage to dish out. So I'll have to keep our eye on him when it comes to these team fights, whether or not he's going to be able to get the resets and hop his way to a pentakill potentially.
The team fight phase to me looks much more straightforward for SKT. Good ranged initiation, point and click initiation, from the Maokai, and to actually make the charge work here from the Kled, you have to consider that, I mean, Huni's just going to stand in front of the ult and basically block it, and if the rest of the members, the Orianna and Ashe, stay back, they're not going to be under any real threat. Sure, there'll be movement speed, but there's actually a bit of negative synergy between, say, a Kled who wants to dive in and a Cassiopeia who's much better kiting backwards with the Petrifying Gaze. So to make this team comp work, we're probably going to see really creative angles from the Kled initiation. Otherwise, it just feels like Maokai is going to kind of shrug and stop it from being
Oh boy, goodbye and good night. Gets caught out over the wall with the roots from Wolf, and they absolutely decimate him. Faker taking away that kill, and that's going to open up for this final Tier 1 to fall in favor of SKT. 2,500 gold on the board for them. And Ixu just keeps wanting to run at Faker. This hasn't really found any good initiations yet. But yeah, one of the things I was actually about to bring up before MC got caught was there's really no tanky frontline for Jin Air. No one can run at this SKT lineup.
Side in the Baron, we can't see the health. Okay, it's down to 3,000 already.
Yeah, they're really working through this one. Ixu in the thick of the pit. Bang has to flash out the back. You have to expect that Peanut will have the kill. There it is, comes through. Kuzan going low, flashes away, but I don't think it's enough. Flash forward from Huni, locks him up with the Q. He's got Ixu sticking to him like glue, takes that twisted advance forward to find a kill onto the enemy mid laner, tries to run away. Not able to do so. Now Faker alone with Teddy takes him out. Ixu will connect with that bear trap. MT rejoining the team. Dragon's Rage forward. Misses. The Sonic Wave, but Faker doesn't really have anywhere to go. Draws the ball into himself. It still goes down. 4 Baron buffs lost on the side of SKT. They get the gold. They get 3 kills, but they lose a hell of a lot.
Yeah, and Ixu was left kind of just all to his own devices and put out so much consistent damage. We're going to see the replay. Important ultimate, got them the vision, they got them the knowledge. Baron goes down quickly, but then Jin Air commit, and they commit at the right time. Baron's at 1,600 health. Suddenly Bang has to flash out of the pit, and sure, no counter smite to try and interrupt Peanut, but Peanut goes down, and crucially, Ixu is free hitting with these violent tendencies. Faker walks in, gets the assassination on Teddy. You think things are fine, but Bang has given up on this fight, and Ixu just keeps acquiring target after target, hits those skill shots. Respawns. He wasn't even alive when the Baron was started.
I mean,
and Ixu's just the MVP here.
It's sub 25 minutes. The respawn timers are so short at this point, so very easily able to rejoin his squad. And yeah, Ixu, you said it, the MVP of the fight, had some really questionable plays with the charge, but when you just get him in this massive brawl around the pit, he absolutely excels.
And you have to wonder where the shot calling disconnect was, because Faker clearly wanted to go in, walks and assassinates the Jin. That part we saw, but we didn't see off our screen. Bang was just clearing minions in mid, so either someone was overly confident or there was just a lack of information processing because they didn't respect the respawn timer or Ixu's damage. And hey, we don't see a lot of Kled. First Kled in LCK. Maybe they just didn't respect just how much damage that top laner can put out.
Yeah, I mean, you can see how the Titanic Hydra here for him, looking for a Guardian Angel next as third item. SKT posturing up in the mid lane, get the wave moving, but can't really walk up to the turret to get any damage in. Just have that one Baron buff on Bang to work with.
Rotating through, putting down this deep vision. Pick comp with Kha'Zix has deletion damage, so Jin Air have to be very, very defensive-minded. Walking through their own jungle is super risky. Wave clear's not wonderful on the side of Jin Air, as you can see.
Shockwave finds Teddy. Big Devour coming through from Snowflower, keeping him alive. They'll just have to go ahead and sacrifice that tier 2 tower. SK2, do they want to stick around, or do they want to back off? They see Ixu moving up into the top lane. Huni goes back to try to answer for the push. But look at that damage coming through already. He starts shredding out that turret.
And this is the best case scenario for Jin Air because they don't have wave gun, because the hard engage of the Kled ultimate just doesn't look like it's going to work against a Maokai in position. Much better for them to set up the 4-1, try and answer with objectives. It's just falling low, and we can see on our minimap, Bang is coming to try and help as well.
Yeah, won't be able to get there quite in time. Huni just going to roughhouse him a little bit. He'll hold onto that turret. Oh, try to interrupt the recall from Snowflower and get a pick, but he sidesteps it right at the last second. And he will stay alive to tell another tale. So SKT able to get that turret. Where do they go from here? You can see Huni starting the push up into the top lane. Dragon coming up, and Peanut, he's there in an instant. Infernal Drake, looking like it's going to go over to them. MT getting hit up by that shockwave figure, just making sure they can't even get towards the pit to try to contest. And that is going to be a 4th dragon picked up for SK Telecom. That Elder Drake, if they can get it, is going to be very scary for Jin Air.
And I'm happy you brought up that point, because suddenly a 4-stack Elder Drake is looking pretty comparable to Baron buff in terms of impact. There was that buff onto Elder Drake in the post-Worlds patches, lasts an extra 30 seconds in duration. Now you'd actually have more of a window, a more forgiving window to actually make use of it. But the team comps that couldn't use Elder Drakes were the team comps that were short on initiation. SKT is not short on initiation, so once they pick up that buff, would certainly be some turret dives aplenty coming. As long as Maokai's taking turret aggro, they can dive for days.
Yeah. Some turret deaths for sure. Could use that true damage to work through Ixu. Knock him down rather quickly. Still not the tankiest. Has that GA. Keeping the fight a bit longer, but otherwise doesn't have that many tanky stats. See, Teddy, surprisingly coming out, has a gold lead over top of Bang in his LCK debut.
In this situation, if you're Jin Air, your job is basically to get down as much vision as possible, as safely as you can, and how you do that is a buddy system. Basically, Snowflower follows around a Lee Sin, follows around a Kled, and just continues to sweep, continues to put out vision, because both Baron and the Elder Drake are now must-stop objectives for Jin Air. They usually are in even the worst case scenario, but this is kind of the best case scenario for SKT, where they have all the Drakes to make this Elder Drake just that much more crucial. So Tahm Kench can stop the Ash Arrow from answering, but putting down vision and cancelling out vision to stop this pick comp from just getting assassinations and getting a objective for free is the game plan for Jin Air right here.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely need to put some vision down around the Baron. Minute and a half, or less than now, before that comes in on the respawn. And SKT now with the Infernal Drake would be able to kill it that much faster. Teddy gonna go ahead, pop the Ghost Blade, gonna start running up the river, trying to get towards Peanut.
Yeah, Peanut and Faker corralled.
Oh yeah, they're gonna lock down Faker. Gets devoured, flashes away, still getting hit by the bullets, and he's gonna die now. Peanut really nowhere to go, jumps over the wall, can't flash out. There's too many people, has to run up the lane. Looks like he will be able to make it out alive. Looney trying to come in on the flank. Gets pushed back by Kuzan, firing off with those Twin Fangs. Root won't connect from the Deadly Flourish, nor will the damage from the Redemption. They'll get a big heal onto Kuzan, however, and Jin Air is going to be happy about that. Now with Faker gone, they're going to look to push up this mid lane, maybe get a tier 2 of their own.
So Peanut was the one caught out putting aggressive vision, and then Faker tried to back him up, and then was caught in his own right. Suddenly Jin Air have inside track to mid. They don't have a minion wave, but for now that's not going to be an issue. Getting some damage down. They're going to finally wait and follow this minion wave as, Huni was pulling the minion wave, stopping them from getting an uncontestable in a turret.
Yeah, but I mean, still a couple seconds left on Faker. Looks like they will give up on the push, so Huni, nice job by him. Did have to use his flash to get away from that, however.
But it's really good game sense. I mean,
oh, sure.
That's the sort of thing that smart players do. They understand, well, this is inevitably going to happen. What can I change? They can't engage their 4v5, but pulling the minion line, suddenly you can't take that turret. So nice stuff from Huni and a heads-up play from him.
Yeah, just saying, for every action, a consequence. So won't be able to get those big flash twisted advance engages on the Teddy. Speaking of engage on the Teddy, he'll get hit by that crystalline arrow. Devour doesn't even need to come through from Snowflower. He knows that he's safe. SKT, they want the turret. Not so much blood. They'll be able to knock that down. 5 for them as they move to a 4K plus gold lead and maybe have their eyes set on Baron. Peanut rotates over there. There's a couple wards in the river here for Jin Air, but otherwise they don't have much vision priority around the pit.
And Jin Air are in a pretty good spot defensively, all things considered. SKT don't have anywhere near the vision that would make them comfortable to start the Baron, regardless of Infernal Double Mountain. So regardless of the speed, they don't feel confident. There's another ult from the Kled.
Yeah, Ixu coming in, jumps over onto Huni. Get much done there. Gets onto Peanut. Works him down about half HP. Deadly Flourish will not connect, so he's safe for now. It's the command protect, but SKT, they have to be really careful with this engage with Wolf and Peanut both at about half HP.
Ixu himself, not full, but of course, have that untargetability and passive still available. Skull is healing up slowly. Peanut keeps farming. That means they can't have the same pressure they want around the Baron pit. The vision battle once again kind of stagnates. And Jin Air keep getting life after life. Sure, they're behind in Drakes. Gold lead, it's only 4,000 at 30, so it's very respectable. And this game, still up in the air. 32 minutes in. Not many people would have predicted that.
Yeah. Looking way closer than anticipated. And it's just kind of been that way through, the first series yesterday. And now here, Jin Air putting up one hell of a fight. Seems like this rookie talent might be paying off for them. I gave my power rankings for the LCK season, and maybe I placed Jin Air a little bit too low.
Yeah, I had a bit more faith in Jin Air just because these guys, I spoke to some analysts in the Korean senior players, people that were familiar with them in solo queue, and Teddy before the Kesper Cup, he was the player that was identified as being the best new talent in that tournament over someone like Prophet, who people had seen in the LSPL. People told me, Teddy, this guy is legit. He's had a decent game, hasn't made too many mistakes. His reputation was smaller, but still up there. People still said this guy's got something about him compared to, say, Haru, who couldn't get it done on CJ but looked good on Samsung yesterday. And he's played well here as well.
Ash Arrow coming through, locks up Ixu. Still has that Guardian Angel, still has Snowflower there to bail him out. Call's opened up. Teddy looking for Wolf or Bang, won't get too many shots, and finds Faker with a fourth and final. We'll take a decent chunk off of him. SKT in a really awkward position. A little bit dissected here as Peanut was cut off from the rest of the squad. Huni trying to take up in the front lines. It's going to be Stranglethorn thrown down. Teddy getting beat on by those plants. Doesn't go down yet, but they're able to find Snowflower. That's the bailout for Jin Air. Completely wiped off the board. Big shockwave coming through. Umte able to jump out to safety. Kuzan still untouched with his Cassiopeia. He can't even try to turn around and help Ixu. Just has to hightail it, get himself out to safety. And Ixu, the land of the slaughter, surrounded by SKT, will go down. They get the Guardian Angel as well before that. And that should be a Baron, a second one going over to SKT.
My assessment of this Kled when it comes to the 5v5 team fights comes true. 2 team fights in a well. No way to acquire a target that isn't Huni in the front line. The last person you want to be focusing on. And crucially, it's just as Baron has spawned. They'll be able to rush it down instant. Look at the deletion damage coming out. It doesn't matter, but they don't have a tank to tank it up. Such is the damage they put out. And okay, Elder Drake spawn. We're a little bit ahead of the game there. It is going to be a final Mountain Drake. That's 3 Mountain Drakes. So Baron at any point, you need consistent vision and you need people in the area. Because 30% extra damage is going to be something impressive.
I mean, we'll take another look at this one. Looks like it might have been good for Jin Air after chunking out Faker, but SKT, they just turned this around so perfectly.
I mean, you need someone to threaten the backline. Orianna is a team fight general. Ashe does most of her work in the consistent slows and damage over time. And if Kled is not doing that, no one on the side of Jin Air is capable of hitting the backline. So predictably, you acquire the target of Huni, he doesn't die, the rest of Jin Air are the ones to fall.
Yep. And now SKT, they'll hold on to all 5 Baron buffs this time around, don't have to rely on only Bang for the pushing power. So they should be able to net themselves this final Tier 2 turret and start knocking on the door of the base of the Jin Air Green Wings. You can see SKT already moving up here. They'll clear out these traps from Teddy. It's a root onto Peanut. A little bit of damage coming through as that grenade bounces onto his face. But doesn't want to open up with the curtain call. Looks like he's just going to go ahead and heal back as quickly as he can.
This is the only time that's really safe to open up, when Maokai still has a 3.5-second teleport timer to get into the fight. But Jin Air just seem to be trying to hold on to what they have. They aren't willing to pull the trigger on 4 squishy members in front of them, and the moment Maokai's there, all their options to initiate kind of go out the window.
Yeah, looks like they almost got that Tier 2 tower in bottom. Ixu's been splitting down there for a while, and the waves have been crashing against it. It does go low. Huni's able to clear out the waves in time, has TP available. Get the fight break out. You have to think that's inevitability. Charge coming through. Curtain call opened up. Will not find Peanut. Knocks him down to about half HP before that expires. Huni coming in on the front line. Won't be able to lock down anybody long enough for Bang and Peanut to burn through them. But this is just going to be a game of inches now for SKT.
SKT's formation when Maokai is there is so straightforward. Huni just occupies all the space, about 500 units in front of his allies. And the moment a root comes down, they focus down a target. That is the way that SKT's comps work, and so far it's doing work.
Yep. Big heal off the redemption here for Jin Air, but they're still going to lose that inhibitor. SKT, do they want to push forward more? Do they want to peel back? Looks like it will be the latter. Could easily rotate over to the mid lane if they so wanted. Try to siege up yet again, but looks like it will be the recalls coming through. They netted themselves a good amount of gold, so they're going to go back home and spend it. And Peanut buys his first defensive item.
Well, yeah, it's a chain vest, so Guardian Angel is going to be the 1 item defense.
Okay, well, Mount Mortius.
It's mostly for the damage, let's be real.
Yeah. I mean, I know that's why Peanut's doing it, but somebody out there would be like, well, Melbourne has a shield.
You know, I saw Peanut build a Randuin's once. It was a once-off. I think it was a misbuy. I think he tried to buy Dead Man's Plate and kind of made a mistake. Didn't realize there was no offensive stats.
He didn't want it for the armor. He wanted it so they couldn't run away from him anymore.
So he could do more damage.
Yeah, okay. Exactly.
Makes more sense.
That's our Peanut. But yeah,
people
Lord
talk
Dominic's regard.
People talk about Huni playing tanks. I want to see Peanut play a tank. Can he play a tank? I mean, Warrior Enchant full tank. I'm gonna qualify that as a tank. Show me that one time, then I'll be surprised.
That would be pretty shocking.
He builds quite a lot of damage on his Rek'Sai even, so.
Yeah, Titanic Hydra. Kick things off with a very early Tiamat. That's just his style, man. It seems like SKT have found a good mesh so that everyone can play their styles, other than maybe Huni, who has been playing Maokai.
I mean, he's got Knight's Vow Maokai, just to provide more defensive stats for Faker, of course. Who else would it be? No AD carry. No.
Huni's really just trying to stamp out the Reddit criticism. Like, no, guys, I can play tanks.
I mean, Knight's
Vow play for the team.
Is the most obvious shield help out your AD carry item, but it's 2017, so Faker, of course. Being SKT and 2017, Bang gets no help at all.
I mean, if Coma tells you to build a Knight's Vow, you build a Knight's Vow, Papa. That's just how it goes.
The problem is he only said build Knight's Vow. He didn't clarify who for.
Yeah.
He didn't get to the link up. I just get the Knight's Vow. It's a support item, Huni.
It doesn't matter what champion it is. Build the Knight's Vow. Bang, gonna get some nice alone time on the turret. It's a little bit of damage, but now Huni, it's a command protect just for that added defense. Walks up, and they're just starting to whittle this away. Super Creep Wave pushing into the base right now. Jin Air, they're going to have to respond to this. Get a root on the Bang. Curtain call comes out. Wolf takes the first. Huni looks like he might just take the preceding ones. And he will. So.
3-item Jin, a 3-item Jin last hit did 240 damage, and he has armor penetration.
Seems balanced, man.
Just Maokai things. Maokai is on that list of 100% pick ban champions.
We went from just Poppy things, now it's just Maokai things. We're just stuck in the inevitable hell of tank top laners. And then there's Kled.
Hey, it's a welcome sight to see the Kled.
Oh, for
some
sure.
tank items, but something different. Ixu has been known for having a few different picks, and solo queue is most played as Singed, which we did see Expression playing yesterday. There's another champion that can profit from the tank meta.
Oh. Getting jumped on. It's going to turn around. It's right back in to offer up some damage to Ixu.
I am heartened to see teams being like, oh wait, what beats the tanks again? People forget the Fiora that was always Sin as the tank buster, and then Singed just has that ability to proxy farm and pressure these low wave clear tanks.
I mean, we saw Smeb do a hell of a lot of work with Fiora yesterday as well. Oh, flash over the wall. Huni finally going aggressive. Gets on the Snowflower. They burn him down below half HP, but the great health is there to keep him alive for a bit longer. Elder Drake in the sights of SK Telecom. Really want to get that 4-stack buff. T has to use the blast cone to jump over the wall, get himself out to safety. And with that down, I think SKT could feel confident enough to wrap around, maybe even start up the Elder Dragon. There's one ward inside the pit that they have not cleared yet. Looks like it's just going to be the Scuttle Crab for now. Baron's also going to be an option in just 20 seconds. So at this point, the world it's pretty much their oyster if you're SKT.
And just looking at the comp from Jin Air, you just wonder how they make a game-winning pick, how they make a game-winning play, because they're behind in gold. It's about 8,000 gold at this point. Already we said initiation for them will be very tricky, given that Kled can't get it done against something like this Maokai. So to me, the best way to actually get an advantage for Jin Air is they're going to have Snowfire.
Oh, couldn't even use the great health shield. Bang just pops him with a massive crit. Now Huni coming in on the backside, gets a massive lockdown on the members of Jin Air. Ixu barely able to escape the shield from Umte, keeping him alive. Making sure he doesn't lose that GA, but nice sniping from Teddy. Will pick up Wolf as a consolation prize, but with no Cassiopeia, no Snowflower to bail out the remaining members of Jin Air, SKT, they are just going to leave the base in shambles as they push in and look for potentially all 3 inhibitors. The top one has respawned, but they could certainly sweep right through the base.
Yeah, SKT just needed to pick on someone. Picking the Tahm Kench is so much easier than relying on him being out of position.
He can't devour himself. That would look really weird.
Exactly. That would be weird. That would be weird from many different perspectives. I don't even know how you communicate that graphically.
Did you just vanish?
I guess so.
Inside your own
He just
self?
instant stealths, I guess. That's about the only thing that would make sense there. But a pick on anyone, the problems with the wave clear suddenly so much more obvious when you don't have a Tahm Kench to dissuade. You don't have that fifth member, and then they can power down the turrets. Instantly mid lane turret down, bot lane turret down, 3 inhibitors down, and we saw Longzhu put up a very valiant defense from this position, but I think SKT, they pick up the Elder Drake, they shoot an arrow at someone, and they end the game.
Good old pick Tom's dash. Pings are coming out from SKT onto that Elder Drake. Looks like they want to just go get some vision of it, not really opt into taking it. Baron, eventually a juicier option for them. So they can shred through that insanely quickly. They can shred through both objectives insanely quickly at this point. Let's see which they want to go for. Might just be a good old shove down the mid lane. They have 3 waves of super creeps coming in.
I mean, they're just going to take both objectives. It's push forward the minions. There's the Baron. Baron could be dead right now. We wouldn't know.
It's pretty close. There we go. That last 3,000 disappeared in about a second and a half.
I mean, it's dirty how much damage SKT do to the Baron. That 20%.
And yeah, it looks like it might just be both objectives picked up. Jin Air hovering around on this bottom side of the river. They do have some of their waves pushed out, so they are at least not in danger of losing their Nexus turrets at the moment. But look at this Elder Dragon just completely vanishing. He throws out that Sonic Wave. Won't be able to push forward. SKT, do they want to try to finish this one? Looks like it will be a yes. Peanut does find it. 4 buffs going over to them. Umti has to flash away immediately. Ixu getting locked out. Loses Skarl. Still has the Guardian Angel up to try to keep himself alive, but the Ash Arrow comes through from Bang. Huni locking him down with a Twisted Advance. They pop the GA. Ixu, he is dead to rights at this point. Peanut wants a taste of the action. Jumps up the wall. Actually doesn't even get an assist on that. He died before the Q even went off. And SKT, after finding that pick, it looks like they're going to end the game right here at 45 minutes.
Just teleporting in onto the super minion. It's going to be multiple minion waves and a Huni who is unkillable in the front line. And Jin Air put up a good defense, but SKT, predictably, get it done in the last.
Yeah, a bit of a slow start for them, considering their usual pace, but they get the ball rolling, and it just doesn't stop. SK Telecom 17-10 in the end with a 14,000 gold lead. Take down Jin Air in game 1 in just under 45 minutes.
Still a couple of things to work out for SKT, but so far so good. First question answered. Can Huni play tanks? Well, he's played Maokai before. Seemed pretty good on it here. He went the most supportive build you could ever ask. Who got the Locket? Who got the Knight's Vow? Both of them from Huni.
Just give him a redemption, and you're good to go.
I mean, when you have a jungler like Kha'Zix, you know the damage will be there when you have Faker on your team. Doesn't matter the champion, but Faker Zoriana, Bang on Ashe, and then you have a damaged jungler as well, so he knew his role, and that's the only question mark you really have. The talent is certainly there on the paper for SKT. Could they adapt to their roles? And with the support staff like SKT, with the experience of SKT, we shouldn't be surprised. The answer, very resoundingly, is yes.
Yep. Well, really well played by SK Telecom. Jin Air having a very strong early game, you do have to say. Give credit where credit is due.
I mean, Jin Air wasn't embarrassed. Yeah. They played competitively. For a lot of the mid-game, they were there. First thing came together for SKT, and it kind of went with the game from there.
Well, they kick off with their usual style, 45-minute game for Jin Air, so keeping that consistent at least. But SK Telecom are able to take away that game. But Jin Air, they have a second chance. It is a best of 3, so they can come back into this new draft. We'll have to see how they're going to answer. That's going to be the really interesting thing, is how they come back into this 10-ban system and try to work out how they can win against SK Telecom to push us to a game 3. We're going to go to a quick break in just a second here, guys. When we come back, we will have that game 2. We'll see if SKT can close it out nice and cleanly, or if Jin Air will give them some trouble. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.